Good morning. You know what the most frustrating part about running a YouTube channel is? Most of your motivation hits you whenever you're laying in bed at night, waiting to go to sleep, thinking about ideas for a video, what you might talk about, what you might look at. At that time, you're all ready to go. You're like, yeah, okay, I've got ideas. Let's go do this thing. But then when the day comes around and chaos, Jesus Christ. Put your phone down. Anyway, when the day comes around, you actually have to strap a microphone to yourself, put the camera in the bike and get going. Suddenly all that motivation you had just gets flushed down the toilet. There's a real pressure that comes to doing these things. I wish there was a way just to have like a floating invisible camera. That way I didn't have to have a tripod on my bike. Doesn't attract any more attention. But it is what it is, I guess. Should just stop complaining. Sell your Tesla. So what's the point of today's video? Well, today we're just going to take a little ride, go down the Monon Trail, and I want to talk to you about e-bikes. Of course, what I'm riding on right now is an electric cargo bike. It's an Urban Arrow. It's basically a car replacement for us. Let's just navigate all the motorists first. Oh, this is not a forgiving curb. That's pretty aggressive. Oy. Let's get on the Monon Trail and go this way. So anyway, what were we talking about? E-bikes. So for as long as I've been in this space, bike advocacy, bikes for transportation, I've watched e-bikes become more and more popular, especially with the rise of Bosch-powered e-bikes. Hey, squirrel. You're cute. And for the longest time, and this was more pronounced years ago, there's this belief that you have to somehow justify owning an e-bike, or even more, an e-cargo bike. From day one, I've always found these rationalities and arguments to be just utterly absurd. So think about it like this, especially for a lot of you who live in countries with, mostly car-oriented development and sprawl and unforgiving infrastructure for people outside of cars. We have a lot of distance to cover. We're competing with motorists for space and safety, and e-bikes really offer you a lot of advantages. Here's one. E-bikes give you extra strength, extra energy when you don't have it. They calm strong winds, they flatten hills, they shrink distances, and just overall they eliminate a lot of your excuses. So getting an e-bike is really good for people who just want to try to incorporate active transportation into their life, especially if they have some enabling infrastructure where they live, but also make it easier and safer at the same time. There's also a lot of people out there, a lot of men particularly, that like to argue, well, I have an acoustic bike, I get around on leg power, and good for you, but why don't you just keep that to yourself? If acoustic bikes were the answer, especially in North America or other countries experiencing sprawl and car-oriented development, well, then we'd all be on bikes already. But clearly, they're not good enough for most people. They're just good enough for the people that love to boast about it, how they don't ride an e-bike and ride an acoustic bike, and well, you just bring toxicity to the discussion. So good for you, keep your pedal power going, but for the rest of us who need some help and some encouragement, there's e-bikes and e-cargo bikes. Also, there's this other preconceived notion that when it comes to e-cargo bikes, like what I'm riding now, people will say, well, I don't have kids, or my kids are grown, I don't need to haul them around, so I can't justify an e-cargo bike. To which I say, bullshit. Do you say the same thing about a car? Like, oh, I don't have kids, so I don't need a car, because I don't have to haul children around. Or, yeah, my kids are grown, they can drive themselves places, I don't need a car anymore. E-cargo bikes, they just make a life by bike easier. You can be riding around with nothing in there, just air. Or, You might stop at the grocery store and get a bag of groceries or $200 worth of groceries. Whatever else you need to take a big box to UPS or FedEx or DHL, toss it in the cargo bike. It's simple and it's enjoyable. Boy, congested area for sure. It's good that it's congested. It means people are out, right? Now we're in a nature preserve where it sounds like there's some work going on, so it's not so tranquil out here today. They are an upfront investment. I mean, they're pretty expensive to get going for a high quality one, and I always advocate for people who really want to make a commitment and hopefully just make the right purchase decision the first time to go with a Bosch powered e-bike. So something from Gazelle, Tern, Urban Arrow, Risa Mueller, Larry versus Harry, the Bullet, only I think those are Shimano powered, and Shimano's a good company too. I'm just more familiar with Bosch powered motors, but Shimano's good as well. There's a lot of people that buy Rad Power bikes and they work for them, but they are a lower quality one. They do have their own issues that are somewhat well known. And I've met a lot of people who bought Rad Power bikes to get started, who a year or two later want to get rid of it so they can get something better, like a Tern or something more high quality, serviceable, reliable. So I've seen it enough to know that it's a thing. But it doesn't mean you can't buy a Rad if that's something that's in your, your financial wheelhouse, then go for it. Morning. The thing is, as I've probably already said, e-bikes make bike life easier and enjoyable. You end up riding more. Especially when you know they can make up for some of the excuses that might have kept you off of a bike. And if you think that it doesn't add up to savings, if you're thinking about the price tag of the bike, it does. Little trips add up. If you start making some grocery runs or going out to eat locally or just whatever regular mundane errands you would do locally, you do those over the course of the year by bike and leave the car at home, those miles, those kilometers add up. The wear and tear, the fuel, that all adds up to savings. Next thing you know, you've got thousands of miles or kilometers on your bike that did not go on your car, and that does save you money. We try to live very local where we are now here in Carmel and make up for some of the things that we can't get locally, buying online. I would say that we're able to pull off 80% of our life by bike and the other 20% for the car, which allows us to just have this old paid for car that thankfully doesn't cost us any money outside of fuel and insurance. And it mostly just sits in the garage. And the kilometers go on our e-bikes. Like I said, I have this. My wife has a Tern HSD. Both very enabling e-bikes, e-cargo bikes. So if you've been on the fence or been somewhat curious, there's some good resources out there. I would encourage you to always come over to, if you're into the old Twitter type of thing, of course don't go to Twitter or X. Come over to Blue Sky. It's a really nice place. There's a big urbanism community there, and it shouldn't take you too long to get connected to people, especially people in the bikes for transportation world. And you can follow me there at American Feetzer. But also there's a new website out. You'll probably know her as Bike Shop Girl, but it's cargobikelife.com. And she just launched this website in, I think, December. And it's growing pretty well. I think there's over 300 members so far as of this recording. And it's a community for people who live by cargo bikes or just, bikes as transportation. Anything bikes as transportation. I know it says cargobikelife.com, but still we tend to accommodate anybody who just tries to replace a car with a bike. So come over to that website and check out the resources available there. There's a community of really helpful people. If you are having trouble, if you're thinking about, I'd like to buy an e-bike or an e-cargo bike, a quality one, you can always reach out to me, or if you find somebody else that owns one, online or in your community, reach out to them and ask for help. They're starting to be sold all over the US, so that, you know, if you don't have something in your city or town, you can probably find something in your region. And there are some quality bike shops that actually you can take care of everything online and they'll ship it to you. Excuse me, sir. Jeez, how many times do I have to ring a bell? And some of these bike shops, not a lot, very few, but some have started to help with financing at 0% for like a year, 18 months, which can help some people get going into getting their first good e-bike or e-cargo bike. Like I said, they're few and far between that offer the financing, but they do exist. So basically that's it. That was just my little elevator pitch to get you to consider an e-bike or an e-cargo bike. If you've been curious about bikes as transportation, some local living, they do a lot for you physically and mentally. I mean, it feels great to get out and move your body more, which is a definite problem in society today. People don't move enough. And also it's good for your mental health when you get out and expose yourself to the world a little bit, get some fresh air, see the birds and the squirrels, and there's some ducks over there. Kind of get your mind off of everything that's happening right now, and we all know what's happening right now. So yeah, it's a beautiful morning. I hope you enjoyed this ride, and I hope you've thought a little bit about what I've talked about with e-bikes, e-cargo bikes, and I hope you'll consider them. The more people that have them, the more chances we have of getting better infrastructure in our cities, having more people out for active transportation, whether that's on a bike or walking, adds that human touch back to our towns and our cities. And you don't have to live in a major city. Small towns are some of the best places for living by bike. Less traffic, smaller streets, as long as you have some things that you can reach locally that you need on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully next time I see you guys in a video, some of these trees will have some leaves on them. Things will start to green up, and hopefully spring has arrived a little bit more. So I'll see you next time.